The humble shall inherit the earth, and those that pray rule the world. So has been my thoughts lately in prayer. That's how I encourage myself to keep going in the Lord. So I want to ask you, after seeing that, do you have any questions? Because I'm dying to hear what you want to know and pull it out of me. Or anybody?
That store there that you showed us.
Yeah.
Is that where they get most of food, or?
There are 4 stores in that particular community. Now, they do not have a good diet. That is one of the stores where the young people go and they get snacks. It's full of junk. Can you believe that that's a store?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like.
Yeah.
It doesn't look that big.
It's not. It's a little shack. Yeah. A lot of shacks. I never did take pictures of shacks and tell people about them, because I really like to honor people's dignity. And I figure if I don't want them to see what I show you, if I don't want them to see it, then I shouldn't be showing you. But there are intimate circles where I will show pictures and say certain things, people I trust. But because we need to know what it's really like. It's not easy to go there, but I wouldn't do it. I just feel God's love, and I just feel like a passion to do that. God's anointed me to do what I do, and I'd rather not do anything else. I would rather have those things than to be rich or famous, So those are important. So that's a good observation. It kind of went fast, but I wanted you to notice that.
How long is that road that you're on? Like, is there no other access than just by the roads? They don't have any lake or?
That's the only access road. Now, there are a series of lakes and little channels from lake to lake. I don't know if you saw a glimpse from the airplane. I took the picture. Yeah. But there are channels of lakes. And
how do they get supplies? And like by plane or
by plane? Not by charter. Yeah, a chartered. What do you call the supply plane? They don't call it a charter supply plane. They call it a cargo plane. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what they medevac people in. There's no windows, and they just sit on the floor. But it's uber expensive. Mm-hmm. Very expensive. The winter road. Pardon?
Who owns that plane?
That was a Wasaya Airways plane. It's co-owned as a business joint effort by Wapakika First Nation, Big Trout Lake First Nation, and I do believe Sandy Lake First Nation.
Just one plane, they all own it?
No, there's a couple of planes, little ones. But you see how far I was to the cockpit. Very close. To finish your answering your question about the planes, about the roads, you can get to those communities from Sioux Lookout in the winter driving on the ice roads, like driving on the lakes. They're frozen, but it is quite risky, and it's a really long way. You have to have a truck.
Whereabouts is Sioux Lookout in comparison to?
Sioux Lookout is a 23-hour drive from here. It is, if you look at, if you look at Winnipeg and you look at Thunder Bay, Sioux Lookout would be on the apex of that at 5 hours either way from each place.
Farther north.
So, yeah, farther
north.
Yeah.
How far away from Kenora?
3-hour drive from Kenora. Not bad. And I did minister in Kenora the summer before. Yeah, it's a nice. They've got really good church there. They really have a heart for street people. So in those kind of places that you mentioned about Kenora, is a particular reason that you ask about Kenora?
I drove across Canada once, so I knew that was one of the last places before.
Yeah, right on the Trans-Canada.
Yeah.
Right. Kenora, places like Kenora on the Trans-Canada, and even Whitby Psychiatric Hospital, the Children's Hospital, Women's College Hospital, places like that down here, they are often the last ditch attempt to help a native when they get sick or they become mentally ill. Or any other questions?
How old is that, your son?
He's 20, he'll be 20 in May. And Isaac will be 20 in May.
So you said that you were there when he was born, you said?
Yes,
or?
I was the birth coach for both of those boys and named them.
So
Yeah.
if you lived up there and you don't have the medical care, obviously you've come here, but you have no access to it because of your circumstances up there. I guess their lifespan would be a lot different than ours.
Yes, for various reasons. Not just because of lack of access to care, but because of lack of access to the nutrition that's meant for their metabolic type. Natives were never meant to eat the amount of grains that we eat here, or the sugar that we eat here. They need to eat meat, they need to eat berries, and fish, and they're not getting them for a couple of reasons that I did explain on the video there. Transportation. Now, why is it so hard to get blueberries and fish? Well, the land that First Nations were put on a long time ago, and many of you will probably know this, the Queen put them on really bad land, okay? It wasn't very fertile. And because of the way that the roads have been, the brush that you see is not good quality brush. It's exposed rocks, and it's not good land. So for them to actually get their blueberries, they either have to have a truck, and not everybody has a truck, because not everybody has a good job, and good jobs are at a premium in these communities. So it would be almost wrong for me. It would be actually, yes, it would be an offense for you or for me to live in a First Nations community that's remote like that one, and to have a job on their community. You're taking away employment from them. And the other thing too is, if you are a teacher, to employ yourself as a pastor, there's it's a very confusing thing. What are you? You are known for what you do. You can't be a teacher and a pastor. You have to be one or the other. If you're a pastor, you've got a 24/7 job. Anyway, you'll burn out. I can't do 2 jobs anymore. I can't live up there and do 2 jobs anymore. So that's why.
What kind of soil does berries need? Like, have they ever tried to start gardens and stuff like that? Or?
Well, in remote native culture, there's no such thing as owning parcels of land and lawns like we have. Like I remember flying over Holland, immaculate gardens, organized, squared off perfectly. They believe that every part of land belongs to each of them. If they did, and many of them try to plant potatoes and gardens, they get robbed, or they get run over, they get damaged. It's being tried. I'm speaking with an elder right now who's going to try to plant potatoes and try to section it off, but like vandalism is really a heavy problem.
But like, is there like a church up there that the church could kind of have a piece of land that they could attempt to garden and get?
Well, and I did, you know, the last picture of me walking up a path with a big church in the back? One of the churches I preach into it is that the concept of land and ownership and territory is not the same as ours.
But if no one owns it and it is a community, and build it more as a community that is everyone's. Yeah, now I believe that change comes from the inside out, and this is basically one person at a time. You know, you can't do a whole lot, but mindsets change gradually over time. If a good fence could be built, if there was no vandalism, if somebody could take care of it, because often things get vandalized when you're not there and you can't guard it all the time. So that would be something that would be so wonderful, you know. I could take a team up there this summer and plant a garden, but it's not likely it'll be there the next year, you know. It's unfortunate.
And what if there was like a greenhouse or something built off onto the church that it's actually...
That would get vandalized.
Yeah.
In fact, the car that the band loaned me, that you saw me in there, it was torched and burned one night.
What's the population of that? You said that was child.
That particular community is a very large community. It's got 1,600 people.
So
right
do they
now.
have a police presence?
Yes.
Native police presence?
They have what they call NAPS, Anishinaabe ASCII Police Services, but they are actually like a sort of like native branch of the OPP.
So how many churches would be up in that type of community? Or would there just be one denomination, or
There are 3 churches in that community, that particular one.
different denominations?
Yeah. Now in certain communities, they're all different. All those communities are different. I've been to all 30 of them. Now we're just talking about northwestern Ontario. That community is Anglican, basically full gospel or Anglican. Often they'll whatever, somebody has a camp meeting, they'll all come. But they are, Native people like to have an excuse to gather together. So it's a good cross section of different denominations for sure. There's the Independent Assemblies of God, and then there's the
Catholic
full
presence?
gospel. No, there's no Catholic presence there. Not in that particular one. Most Catholic presence can be found further east. Catholic presence, yeah. And I've been to Quebec, and I've been to Nova Scotia, and I've been to...
So mostly Anglican? No.
There's a few, but yeah. Mennonite, there's a Mennonite presence in most of them. Yeah.
So are they hungry for God?
Well, the people that I work with are. They find you, they invite you to come if they're hungry. They stay in relationship with you if they're hungry. They need to be followed up, but there are a few that are. In fact, I worked with an elder just a bit over time. Like every Friday night I have a teleconference, kind of like pastoring from a distance, and pray for her, hear her concern, hear her heart, help her problem solve a little bit, sort of just support her and pray for her. But today, she's Anglican, but she loves Jesus. So it's not the same here. It's either you're Christian or you're not, you know. But style it's really about style, let's say.
You said it's a 24/7 for being a minister up there? Like,
yeah.
What kind of things would you, you know...
Well, I can give you what happens to me. The night my car was torched, I just preached a message, and I just felt, it was called Youth Blessing Day. This is what God put in my heart. And Youth Blessing Day to a Native ear doesn't necessarily mean a day like youth, and I think day and night. It's like season, Youth Blessing season, because the youth are in so much trouble, that I saw a divide between elders, people my age, and the youth, and I thought, I just believe God put it in my heart to teach them how to bless. Very simple. And so I preached that night, and somebody thought probably I got money from offerings. I preached 10 times and I didn't get anything from offerings, nothing, not a penny. So you don't do it for money. You don't take their money. They're too poor, for one thing. And an evangelist had just come there like a week before I got there and cleaned them out. So I have to clean up after those people leave. They're not. It's not all bad, but it's not. Some things are kind of harmful too. But that night, somebody kept knocking on my door. There was no window on my door. It's a metal door. You never open the door in the middle of the night because it's about drugs. Okay? So you don't open the door. When they're addicted to OxyContin, they just lose their conscience. They'll just come in and do whatever to get whatever you've got. And I think it was about 4 in the morning, starting to turn light. Well, I heard an explosion, and I saw smoke billowing, and there was a police officer who said, come out, come out, come out. So I ran out of the door. And you try to focus on intervention. You try to focus on change in the heart to those that have the most influence in the community. I believe that if I can reach leaders, I've got them all. I've learned that over the years. And God gives me favor there. So I think I do see a change. And the chief phoned me next morning. He said, please don't leave. He said, you know who's mad at you because you're effecting change in our community. So that was quite a compliment coming from that chief. And he's been a chief for, wow, 15, 20 years now. So, yeah. Yeah.
I don't have a question. I just want to say you're an amazing lady.
Thank you. I'm just doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing.
Facing
Thank you.
cancer and still having things up there. That's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, God's been very good to me. I have no complaints. Thank you. It's very kind of you. What's your name?
It's Donna.
Nice to meet you, Donna.
Likewise.
Yeah. Is anybody
I'm
else?
glad I made it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too. I was late myself.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Is any? Yeah.
Just go. Yeah, go ahead.
Often I find, especially at my school, like in my classes, I hear about like crisis and Native communities and talking about like dealing and fixing with their crisis. But like sometimes I feel like we need to like look beyond like crisis and say like what is hope? What does hope look like for the community?
Yes.
And I was wondering, how do you see that like tangibly? What would that look like?
Well, for me, everything has to go back to what Jesus said and what Jesus did. I try to keep it simple. I've preached, I did a conference in there, I was asked to come back, the community asked me to come back in November and please give us a theme. The nurses told the chief and the council, listen, the women in your community, they're addicted, they're abandoned by their husbands, and their children are in trouble. So when women are in trouble in Native communities, the children are in trouble because they're often single mothers. So they said, well, let's get Fern back, and can you pray about, I said, well, my theme. I said, God, please, what am I going to tell these people? I can't fix that. There's no magic wand. So the Lord laid on my heart to teach them from John 13 and 14. As I have loved you, so do this for one another. They could start with loving one another, the Christians and the believers in the community. The nurses came out, the band came out, all the churches came out. And they also invited, I said, bring the Pentecostal church, get them up here too. Get the Anglican Archdiocese, Ontario, get her here too. So she came too. So that's what I preach. It's change from the inside to the outside, and it's brother, it's one person at a time. I do preach the love of God. I'm a proactive preacher. I hear people preaching against what other people are doing wrong, but if I can get them to focus on Jesus, who is the answer, I feel I've made headway. They grow quickly. They will grow quickly. And I believe it works because very biblical pastoring, it's really one person at a time. It's revealing the ways of God in everyday life, like, thinking a little differently about your life, not just hearing a nice sermon and running off, but because of God, because of what He's given me to do, what He's anointed us or equipped me to do, I've been able to raise up some pastors and chiefs and leaders. And so I think that making Jesus the center does work. I believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I want to empower them with the knowledge of what Jesus is, who He really is, and what he is to them. So that's what I do. Even if you go to build or you're a carpenter or if you have that kind of thing inside your heart, they see that. They're attracted to that. Even if they don't speak your language. Like I speak very, very little Ojibwe, but elders will respond, even if I can't speak to them. I remember sitting in my mother-in-law's house taking care of her on the reserve. She couldn't speak English and I couldn't speak Ojibwe, but we could communicate. And it really is a God thing. It's amazing. Did I answer your question okay?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think to maybe
I studied all I could about what they had available. Did you know, and I just learned this, I learned this at that time, that moose, a wild moose, has all the goodness of greens that you and I eat.
Because that's all
A wild moose. Well, that's what they need. They're actually healthy if they eat that. Their teeth are good, they don't have diabetes.
But that's what the moose eats, is just a lot of greens, right? Is that
Yeah.
why it's in...
And they eat a lot of rabbit too, I forgot to tell you that.
Those are the popular plant sterols that you see in the ads, that's what they have.
Yeah, that's right, they do, and blueberries. But the blueberries are getting really hard to come by now. You've got to walk a long way. The dust on the roads are so fine, they get into their chest. And it gets into, I can't take that laptop up north. It'll either get stolen or it won't make it to my destination, or it'll get dust in it and wreck it. So it's not the dust, the quality of dirt that they've got to work with. So
I'm a very white person.
me too.
I'm also that Dutch person with the very straight lines and very nicely neat mind.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here getting frustrated on your behalf, hearing the stories of this, because it's so far outside of my comprehension.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we hope to hear from you in asking you to be here is to help us bridge the two places.
Right.
And so your greatest gift to us as a team, if we continue to do this ministry on the reserve, is to help us bridge the two cultures.
Right.
And so that we don't get to that place of frustration and throw up our hands and say, well, we want to walk away.
Yeah.
What we really need from you is to hear how it is that we can be a blessing and still want to come back year after year to do that.
Yeah,
Right?
Exactly.
Because we want to see the blessing and be able to
You want to do it effectively as a missional church, right?
we want to do that effectively.
Yeah. Well, what I can do is I can help you with the cross-cultural skills. I know that people are so curious, they got to get that, like, oh, what's wrong with this, off their chest. I can answer those questions also in private. But there are some language things. Now, there are commonalities between the remotes and the ones that are Daystar. Not too far from here. Yes, Manitoba. There's some commonalities between all First Nations, and I can help you with that. Commonalities. I can help you with what you have as gifts, each of you, how that would benefit them, or how they would see you, how they would receive you. I can help you with that. And I can start with language and communication. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anybody here that's been to Manitoulin or is representing Manitoulin? Anybody? Anybody?
These guys have been.
You've been, okay. Now, I showed you pictures there. Do you see any commonalities or differences? I just want to know where to start.
Well, the roads are a lot better, for sure.
Yeah, okay. So,
but the starkness of the people's properties, you know, as much as their homes were tight and not bad looking, there was starkness, no bushes, no gardens, like you would say.
There are a lot of communities like Manitoulin Island along Highway 1, and they don't get visited very often, and that's a good place to start, because those places could use some infrastructure help. They need carpenters. Even myself, I'm going to be planting a Micmac church in Nova Scotia. They don't have enough pastors there. They've just got one Catholic church in the community, but I'm going to need carpenters to build a church.
Who's designing that church?
What?
The church.
My church?
Yeah.
I haven't gotten there yet because I have to have funding to live there. And I'm not underwritten by a church.
Say that
I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't started there yet.
So, but you need to live there before you can get to that position?
Yes, because you have to build a family. So, yeah, I know that there's this thing, you can build a building and they'll come. With First Nations communities, it's really good to build relationships with the leaderships first. So that's one thing, Martin. when I go to a reserve, what I do first is I just go and I introduce myself to, I'll say, where's your chief and council? Would you take me there? You can do that. That's simple, right? And you can just, don't say very much. Shake. Are you going to go, Martin?
No, I don't plan on going.
Oh, okay. Who is going? Let me demonstrate. So, you shake their hand like that, you hold their hand like that. Hi, my name's Fern. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Fern.
And they'll probably say, or you could say, hi, I'm Carol. I'm from such and such and my parents are such and such. And that's the proper traditional greeting. Hold their hand a long time, smile, looking into their eyes, and then put your eyes down. And wait for them to speak to you. If they don't say anything, don't get nervous. One thing that a lot of natives tell me, and they don't tell you until they get to know you, is that white people talk too much. Way too much.
I've been told, that's me.
Yeah, but it's also your personality, but you can talk a lot when you get to know them. That's okay, but initially you don't want to come across as a humble person, because they've already got the idea that you're coming to fix them or be their savior, right, or that they're your project. So you don't want to give the impression that they're your project.
Yes.
So if you have an invitation to start doing something somewhere, I think here, you said something about building something?
Last year we did
Maybe
work projects. I think this year we're just going to work alongside Daystar with
yeah.
Day camp.
Day camp.
Day camp. Are you from Daystar? Either of you?
No, I'm doing an internship with them this summer though.
Okay. Oh, very good. Very good. It's nice to meet you then. What's your name?
Steve.
Steve. Nice to meet you, Steve. Yeah, so go to the council, even if they're really well dressed and they look educated and their building's nice, don't let that fool you. Don't let anything outwardly fool you. Still keep the quietness about you and stay calm, and let things go slowly. That's another thing. Speed, the speed at which you move. Don't move too fast. Don't dress up. This is about how I would dress if I was addressing a Native community or even a leadership. I would even preach in this. Now this past Sunday I had to wear a suit and wear a hat to preach because I was in a black church. It suited their culture. But if you go to a Native community, get your cues from how their leadership is dressed, and that's how you dress. Okay? I can give you hints on how to pack. If you go to a place like Manitoulin Island, don't expect anybody to invite you over to feed you. It might not happen because they don't know you yet. Sometimes it takes years. So always take some peanut butter with you in your pocket, or don't feed the dogs. If there's dogs out, don't feed them. If you've got little treats in your pocket, you give them to children. Because elders take note of how you treat their children. It's really important. If you're kind, if you're loving, if you're a good listener, they take note of that. And you don't want to stare into an elder's eyes. Always keep your eyes down. Kind of keep your head down like this. It's just about just right, the way I'm looking at you right now. I know it might seem silly, but it actually is important. They're just like unspoken taboos. So I don't look at you like this. I sort of look at you sort of off the side a little bit and smile and look down. Yeah. And there's a thing called visiting presence, another thing that's common to all natives, all Native communities. We call it visiting presence. If you go to a funeral or you go to somebody's house, do the handshake thing, but you don't have to say anything. Best to say nothing at all. And just sit with them. It's okay for them to sit with you. You can sit with them. They can come to your home and just watch you work. And you don't have to say anything. And to them, that's their feeling out who you are. So be comfortable with that kind of communication. Yeah.
I just really wanted to, for you to, when you came today, really wanted to hear about, maybe even if you could think about how we could plan, and this is my very organized brain going into gear here, how we could plan into the future, even 1 year, 2 years, 3 years into the future.
Yes.
If we're going to continue to do this, and maybe what were some reasonable expectations that we might have.
Yes, okay. Do you have contact with an elder or a leader? Go slow, be patient.
Slow down.
It might be good for you, even if you don't do a project, it might be good for you, just hearing a little bit about that, to go and visit that community and just love on them.
How would you go about just visiting? Like just show up?
Talk to the same elder, this project per se, you go along with them. Ask God to give you favor. I ask God to help me all the time. There's not always a plan A, or you know what I mean?
It seems as though that what I'm hearing you saying is that we should just kind of go with the flow when we're there.
You have to go with the flow. You have to go with the flow if you're going with somebody else. But really, you've hit it bang on when you said build a relationship of trust. That's probably your first initial step. Physically being there and then building that relationship. If you build relationships with a leader in the community, if you can do that over time, phone them. Phone them, go visit them. You're close enough that you can visit one or two of you. And just say visit. Natives love for you to come and visit them. They're very honored.
So you mentioned that it might take a while before you get invited to a dinner, but if you get invited, you should make a point to.
It's very, very, very important for you to visit, because you don't want to give the impression you have an agenda. And it does take time. If you can do something as benign, it's not as, what should we say? It's not as threatening to do a building project, because if you can get funding for this, I would recommend if you get a little bit of funding from someone, offer to pay a few of the youth or men to build with you. The best way to put your mission money. Short trips are nice. People like to give to excursions, and they'll expedite trips or projects for a team from a church to go. But the best way you can affect change in a community from the inside out is to take care of the person that already knows the people and is already there, living there, already has built that relationship over the decades or years. Funnel some money there and go and work with them whenever you can.
So you mean they get their cues from the way their people are reacting?
If you're good, like they'll watch you if you're good. If the person that you've developed a relationship, they're usually connected to somebody else that you need their favor of, they'll watch you. But a chief, a council, a pastor, if they're native, usually get their cue from how the rest of the people respond to you. So it is a time factor. And it can be messy. You will get discouraged in some ways, because you've got, just talk to somebody who's been there, and it helps you. So relationship in the community and outside is going to help you. But for sure they're going to like you because you're helping them. I just know that. And I can tell by speaking with you right now that you have an affable personality. You've got a personality that's easy for them. So I think that would work. Find out what the pastor's needs are in the community, his personal needs. Take care of that person, and then you're actually helping the community a lot better, spiritually speaking. That's what I do. I help the leader, the pastors.
Don't believe they have a pastor right now.
You know, if you can start a home group,
They have like a visiting church, I think.
That's okay. A visiting church.
Who pastors visit.
The amazing churches take on all forms, and so do pastors. But if you can support that in any way, even if it's a small project like a bathroom or something, that's a good start. Have you built yet?
Yeah, we did some fixing last year, but okay, the outreach center is connected with the church.
Yeah.
And so we helped some of the missionaries that work with the outreach center, but we also did a little bit of work on the outreach center.
Okay. Another thing you can do, because you have those skills, is you can go, like I showed you the protocol, ask to go to the leadership. You can go directly there. You can ask to speak to the chief. It's also good manners to see the chief when you go into a community. It's asked, very good manners. You go there first. Take your luggage, go there first.
Do they like speak English, or you have to go there?
In Manitoulin, they'll speak English.
But like further north?
The chief will speak English almost always.
Yeah.
Yeah, or somebody will translate, because his council members will always be present.
Oh, he has council members. Oh.
It's like a mini parliament.
So the chief has like, are the council members needed?
Yeah.
But they speak English?
Yeah, closer down to Southern Ontario they do. They'll speak their own language probably, and English.
So,
just like Quebec natives, they speak French and their language, and probably English too.
So do we go as like a group to like the chief, and we go one at a time, or do you send like a leader? How does that work?
You can go in threes, no more than 3, and ask if have a woman in your group too. Like keep equity always forefront, because we now have some issues with women's rights in some of our communities. So try to keep a woman, because they're always thinking, what about our kids? Remember, the kids are connected to the women. So anytime they see a woman, they think, oh, they care about our kids. So do that. Take a woman with you, 3, and shake their hand the same way and just say, I'd like to speak with you. I had it, and you can put your hand on your chest. Speak from your heart. Say, I would like to, we're carpenters, we like to, is there anything that we'd like to do this for you. Is there something that we can do for you? And say, it's not for you to pay us. Make sure you say it's not for you to pay us. It's not for money. Yeah. Make sure you say that. Yeah. So is that kind of helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so simple, really, if you're just brave enough to do it.
Well, what you've shared already is invaluable, probably, to many of us, because I would have never thought of some of those things.
I can guide your process as you go. You can phone me anytime. There's so much I could tell you. But all of those things, if you're staying in a accommodation of any kind, try to offer tea to anybody who visits you.
Tea?
Yep, or a snack. Because food is their language of love.
They don't drink coffee, more tea?
Well, some communities really like tea or coffee. Some really like coffee. The younger generation likes tea.
Is that your number right there?
Coffee. Pardon?
That's your number right there?
Yes.
You had referred earlier, Fern, to their concept of land,
Yeah.
which is different than ours, right?
Yeah.
Are there other things like that that we just don't know about, that the way they think about it is a different framework, that they think differently
Yeah.
about that?
Well, let's go right to where you're starting, where you would be staying on your first visit, per se, if they ask you to stay. When you're staying in someone's place, you always don't clean it up more than what they left it, because it says, I think you're dirty or messy. Just let it go. And in some cultures, I come from maritime culture, we always make it better than what we leave it, you know, what we find it. We make it
pretty
clean.
close to the Dutch garden.
Yeah, and leave a gift. Leave something that connects them to your culture. So, if you, I don't know, are most of you Dutch?
No.
Some of you Dutch or called whatever?
Mm.
You're Dutch? Do you, is there something of something that speaks of your culture or something that you value you can leave for them?
Some wooden shoes.
Delft Blauw.
I don't know. Leave them some food. Take food with you and leave it for them. Like if you see someone struggling, don't just pray for them. If you got money in your pocket, give them a 20. You know, if they give you a ride from the airport, offer to give them some money. Even though they should pick you up and take care of you. Do it anyway. I do.
What about those people that have not, and giving money to somebody? I guess you would have to give it in the kind of privacy, so that no one.
Yes,
because you wouldn't want to, upset the apple cart, especially if they're. Some have and some don't.
There is a competitiveness where there's meetings.
Especially up north, where you're saying with all the vandalism, like somebody's got more than the other person.
Yeah.
That's,
yeah. See, this is another thing. When you're doing something or meeting with somebody, before you leave the community, just say, "Can we talk before I go?" So you don't use the word debrief unless they're educators in the community. Just say, "Can we talk?" Ask them, "How do you think it went?" Ask them, "Could we do it better next time?" Like, don't be afraid to ask those questions. It'll teach you a lot if you ask. Most of them won't criticize you to your face. They'll talk to somebody else. But if you ask them directly, they might give you, if you're humbly really asking, they'll give you some advice, very invaluable. And that's a big thing for them to do that too, for you. And then you honor them, respect their wisdom and what they have to offer to you. Even if it's not money or food or whatever.
Where would you end up staying when you go to places like that?
It depends where they put you. I stay in the preacher's cabin. But when the car was broken into, burned, I was moved to the place where you saw all the graffiti. I was moved into that place where it has a couple of locks on the door. But
so it's always like a call ahead and kind of talk to someone.
When you're out talking over the phone, you make arrangements, you say, "I need a place to stay." Just come right out I need a place to stay. Can you take care of that for me? And you just say, yeah, I'll take care of that for you. And if you get there and they don't have it done yet, or they don't have the key, just be patient.
Yeah, what we did.
They'll find you a place.
When we went up there, we actually stayed off the community and we just had a campsite, so we just camped out for a week and then drove.
Yeah.
So then we were.
If they ask you where you're staying, you just tell them where I'm staying at a campsite. They say, "Well, you can stay here."
Yeah.
Then you can move in a little closer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I know that you're trying to not impose.
Yeah.
And you can say that. I don't want to make too much work for. Just say, "I don't want to make work for you." Don't use anything above grade 5 English.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But don't talk
can do
down
that
to
well.
don't talk down to them like
That's
they're
all I got. That's all I got.
don't talk to them like they're morons. So it is getting a little bit late, and I don't want to keep you further unless you have questions or questions.
No.
Maybe some of like, he was asking before about like the language, like is there any like specific language that we should be like a sense of, like especially if we're going to be doing teaching
yes.
in a Christian context?
Yep. Find out from the person that you develop a relationship with, now that's the next stage, to teach you some basic words like hello. You should pick up that right away, hello. Like in Ojibwe language, it's Ojo. And Shinekayan, what's your name? Fernadishnakazia. Like that. And just the way I did it. And they'll tell you their name and they'll probably mumble it and you won't understand them. But it's alright because it shows that you're friendly. But ask them to teach you hello, goodbye. Are you hungry? I'm hungry. I'm tired. You just learn those basic, where's the bathroom? But you don't say, where's the bathroom? You say, I have to go to the bathroom. And they'll tell you where it is. They'll usually point with their lips. Don't point with your fingers.
Oh.
Nope.
Point with your lips.
It's really hard for me because I got corrected over and over again.
Like,
Don't
what do you mean point with your
It's
lips?
offensive. Over there. They'll point with their lips because it's rude. So, yeah. Now, in Manitoulin, it might not be as sticky, but be on the side of too safe. And then relax your guard. Yeah. Smile a lot. Yeah. Put your hands on, if you see a child, put your hands on their shoulder and smile. Hey, how are you? God bless you. Do that a lot. Elders too. When I go to the airport and I travel, I see there's an elder sick. Somebody always grabs me and say, she's sick, she's going to the hospital, you pray for her. I carry anointing oil with me. And I already teach this. There's no magic in the oil. It's just that it smells good and it reminds them that God cares for them, you know. So I get on my knees. Don't worry about what people think. I get on my knees and I pray for the elder in the most humble position I can do. And it's very effective. They notice that. You have to show respect for the elders and the children.
Do you treat the children differently than you do the adults?
Yes.
Like, can you, like, do you have to look at them down and stuff like that, or can you be more kind of playful and, like, talk to them and look at them and...
You can. Yeah. The children watch a lot of TV. They're more connected to pop culture than their elders. So
the whole respect thing is
touching
more
is very important to them. Take a lot of hand sanitizer because they don't often have a place to wash their hands or whatever. Like, take hand sanitizer. And they play outside in the dirt. Hugging is really good. If you're a woman, hug the kids.
What if you're not a woman?
Well, it's a little different for you. Handshaking is very good, and the shoulder. I can do that to a man. It's very acceptable. Yeah. If you're a preacher or somebody with authority, and they've come for you to minister to them, then they expect you to show them the same respect that you would show them if you were a man. Like for me, I have to forget gender at that point. Same with it as in India.
Thanks, Brent.
You're welcome.